We are here at a spankin' Universal Studios.
Florida man, Florida man, Florida man, Florida man, Florida man, Florida man, Florida man.
Hello and welcome back to another Florida Man YouTube video. I'm Trevor.
And I'm Jaden.
I'll roll with it. We are here at a spankin' Universal Studios to give you guys one last update before Halloween Horror Nights starts September 2nd.
It's spanking.
It's spanking. Now, we haven't been here for a minute, so before we head into the park to give you guys all the updates, we're gonna stop in City Walk by the Red Coconut Club to show you what Universal has brewing. Once you enter into Universal, head up to the first set of elevators to your left, and you will see the old Red Coconut Club, but you can see for Horror Nights, they are turning it into the Dead Coconut Club, featuring classic Universal monsters. Universal installed these really cool tiki versions of classic monsters. Here you can see Frankenstein, Wolfman, and the Bride of Frankenstein. And on the other side, you can see Dracula, the Mummy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Universal hasn't said much, but we can assume this is going to be a Horror Nights themed bar, which I really like the idea of. I don't know if you guys remember, but during the summer, over at Islands at the All Hallow Eve store, they did a vacation version of the Halloween monsters, and this is kind of what it's going to look like. They had Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein in their Hawaiian shirts. They had the creature of the Black Lagoon playing cards. Honestly, it was probably one of my favorite overlays for the All Hallow Eve store. As we walk over to the main Universal arches, we can see Halloween Horror Nights is coming together. All the banners are out for all the houses, as well as the big marquee sign for Halloween Horror Nights 2022. Here you can see the marquee sign for Halloween Horror Nights. And Avery thought it was fire at first, but if you look closely, it's more of a blood moon with some trees and some bats in the background. And right to the left of that, you will see the signs for Legends Collide and Halloween. And over to the right, you will see the sign for the Weekend House and Blumhouse. The Blumhouse house. The house for Blumhouse. Now this looks severely different from the last time we are here, so let's go take a look at everything. Once you come in, you will see the throne for our Pumpkin Lord, and this thing looks absolutely grotesque between all the green warts coming off of it and the webs of pumpkin between each tear. This thing looks gorgeous. I'm really excited to see the Pumpkin Lord greeting all the guests running into Horror Nights. I think that is really cool that he's just hanging out here. And if we look towards Minions, you will see his vines are just completely taking over the street. Each of these little stands represents one of the scare zones throughout the park. So this very first one is for Conjuring the Darkness. As you can see, it has a little witch's hat and a cauldron in the back. This stand is for the Deadly Unrest scare zone, and honestly, it's pretty lacking. They have a shovel and they got a bone sticking out. Nothing too special. Let's move on. Now, like everything else in the scare zone doesn't matter, because if you take a look up right in the dead middle center, there he is. I don't know if the camera can see it, but our Lord and Savior, Little Boo, is back, staring right at us. I love him. Now, right below Little Boo is the stand for Scarecrow Cursed Soil, and this one's pretty cool. It actually has a lot of stuff in the soil, including this voodoo scarecrow guy and this really creepy mask coming out of here. I like this one a lot. This one's really sharp. And lastly is the stand for Sweet Revenge. This one's really sharp, and inside the soil you can see they have different Halloween masks and a nice bloody cleaver, and below that you have a very small candy basket with Little Boo on it. The tribute store is looking a little different. Now, Universal actually has a podcast called Discover Universal, where they give backstories for a few of the different houses. So they do have an episode for the tribute store as well as the Major Suites Scare Zone, and I highly recommend checking it out. It's actually a really good, high-quality podcast, and it gives you a little bit of lore towards the tribute store and the Scare Zone behind us. Now, last time we were here, this was still under construction, but you can see they added a few different food booths here. They also have a few of the menus up. Now, I'm not going to show you guys every menu, just the ones that kind of stand out. So this guy here has this pepperoni pizza skull that actually looks pretty cool. Also at this booth, they're going to have a Tombstone red velvet cake. This does look really cool. Oh, and they also have a Little Boo spicy pumpkin bun. Oh, I'm excited for that.
Unfortunately, Mummy is still closed. I hope it reopens really soon, but my guess is gonna open September 2nd.
Now, as we leave the Sweet Revenge, we're gonna head over to Conjuring the Dark and take a look at that. Now, Universal's team came out and was able to express some of the lore between these scare zones. So with Sweet Revenge, it follows the story of a mayor who hires a candy company to sponsor this year's Halloween event. However, the candy is laced and it's making the kids go crazy. So they're all becoming, you know, crazy killer cannibal people. Conjuring the Dark tells the story of a group of witches who are summoning monsters from various dimensions. So throughout this scare zone, you'll see pieces representing those different dimensions. This scare zone is filled with these really cool and complex boo holes, as well as these carts that represent these different dimensions. So on this cart, you'll see a saber-toothed skull, as well as a ram skull in the back. Well, this scare zone changed drastically since we were last here. So they have these really cool rock pillars with these tarps over them, so you can presume they are dead bodies hanging upside down just by the shape of them. Now on the stage, you do have those extra gates in the back, as well as this new covered thing, which again, you presume is a dead body. I love all the little details hidden throughout this scare zone. You can really see the attention to detail Universal put in these scare zone. It really makes it look like you're kind of in like Game of Thrones almost. It's very, very well done. Universal did announce that Nightmare Fuel is coming back, but as Nightmare Fuel Wildfire. So it's going to be a new rendition of last year's show. I'm very excited for this. Over in the Springfield section, Universal did bring back the chainsaw wielding clowns. These guys haven't been here since 2019 before COVID. So I'm very excited for them to come back. Now we're entering into the Scarecrow scare zone, and this has changed significantly since we were last here. We see all sorts of plants, a barn house, a whole bunch of boo holes. This looks like night and day. I'm actually surprised that they have this out during the day. I know there's no blood or guts or anything, but this is pretty creepy. I mean, you're going past these scarecrows to see animal actors. The rebar section is coming together to become an actual barn. This looks really great. It's going to be really cool coming through here, and it looks like scare actors will be on top of these little buildings here, coming down and reaching out at you. And you also have these two little boo holes right here. This looks like a really diverse scare zone. New to this year is Ghoulish, A Halloween Tale. Now this will be taking place over at the lake on Central Park. And the cool thing about the sign is it looks like a record player. And if you look in the corner, it says a 13-page read-along. So it's as if you were to buy a book and it comes with a record, and you would play the record to read along. Honestly, it seems like a classic Halloween tale, and I'm really digging it for this year. Now, Universal really hasn't added anything to the Undead Scare Zone, but they have come out and talked about some of the lore. Basically, this is an old abandoned cemetery guarded by two brothers, and I'm really excited to see because they will be standing right at the entrance here, right in front of Bourne's Stuntacular. Universal's really quiet about what their characters are gonna look like, but because we're the Florida Men, we actually have exclusive access to the photos of one of the brothers that's guarding the Nettlewood Cemetery. So brace yourself, this one's actually pretty scary. So now that we went through all the scare zones, let's talk about all the new merchandise that Universal dropped. In the 5 and Dime, they have a ton of this year's Horror Night stuff. So let's take a look. Starting off is the Pumpkin Lord shirt. This guy is $30. At the bottom it does say HHN 2022. And right next to that is the cup with the very similar design. This one's really cool. This guy is $12. We also have this really cool, almost tie-dye hoodie. On the front it says "Scares at Every Turn" with HHN, and on the back it has the very same design as that shirt. This guy is $65. We also have this Every Day is Halloween shirt. This one I like a lot. This guy is $30 as well. And right above that we have a cup with the very same design on it This guy is $12. They also have this really cool hat. This guy's $30. Under the brim is the different icons this year, including the Pumpkin Lord, Bride of Frankenstein, Michael Myers, and Frankenstein. The Legends Collide shirt is really cool. This guy is $40, but it is black light activated. This is going to be really cool in the parks. And the Legends Collide cup is really sharp as well. All the collector cups are $12. They also have this really cool flannel with HHN on the front, and on the back it has the very same design from the other cup and the shirt with 31 written in the characters. This one is really sharp. We leave the 5 and Dime and head over to the Universal Studios store to go check out all the other Horror Nights merchandise. This year's Spirit jersey is absolutely insane. On the front it says HHN 2022, and below is a collage of witches, pumpkins, ghosts, and ghoulies. And if we flip it around, Dave, it says every day is Halloween at Universal Studios. And I'm gonna be getting like 5 of these guys. The Loungefly for this year is $75. Now the interesting thing is it does have Casper the Ghost on it, which I think is really cool. And then right next to it is this really nice button up with the very same design. This is really sharp. I like this a lot. This guy is $70. Now in the store they do have a Blumhouse double feature shirt with the black phone and Freaky. This guy is $30. Alrighty, so we talked about the scare zones. We talked about the merch. I feel like we're forgetting something though. Oh yeah, the haunted houses. Universal announced all the haunted houses for this year's event. So we will meet you guys at the Florida Man headquarters to discuss all the houses and go into detail about what we're excited for. So we'll see you there. Hello and welcome back to the Florida Man headquarters. We are here to talk about all the houses for Halloween Horror Nights 2022. Now we must give credit where credit is due because Halloween Horror Nightmares was 100% accurate on their spec map. If you guys saw in our last video, we talked about how Halloween Horror Nightmares predicted the 6 remaining houses, and they got them all to the T. Now, we already mentioned it in our last video. Universal already announced the Weekend House, Legends Collide, the Blumhouse house, and the Halloween house. So let's dive into the 6 remaining houses. Our first house is Spirits of the Coven. This guy takes place in a 1920s speakeasy ran by witches, and they are trying to lure you into their speakeasy and show you their true form. Now, this house I am very excited for. Honestly, it sounds like Case Files, the scene where you're going into the cat bar. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting for this one. I'm very excited to see this one. Next is the controversial Bugs Eaten Alive house. Now this one takes place in a 1950s home of the future, and you are seeing an experiment by this bug exterminating company. Now from what the Universal team is going to talk about, it's going to have a lot of smell-o-vision, heat and cold spots, and this house is going to be intense. Even in the Discover Universal podcast, they said getting through that house during the day with the lights on with no scare actors is not an easy thing to do. So their main goal is for you not to finish this house. I, for one, am really nervous about this house. I think this is going to probably be the hardest house of this season, but nonetheless, I am so excited for it. Next up is Fiesta de Chupacabras. This one takes place in a Latin American village where you are a tourist. But things are kind of going wrong where you have both the Chupacabras and the villagers going after you. This one tells a story of culture and lore, and I'm very excited to see this one. This one kind of reminds me of the Yeti house in 2019, so I'm very excited to see how they're going to incorporate sets that resemble a village. Halloween Horror Nightmares predicted a house simply called Prison. However, Universal announced Hell Block Horror. This is a prison designed for monsters. And the cool thing about this one, it's going to be filled with Easter eggs. This one's going to feature a diverse cast of different monsters between aliens, vampires, zombies, werewolves. This honestly kind of reminds me of the Icons house, but I am looking forward to it nonetheless. Dead Man's Wharf is coming to make a return. This was a scare zone a while back, and now it's getting its own house. This one takes place in a New England village, and it's supposed to have a nice, beautiful side to it, but also a torture and corrupt side of it. It's going to feature the dead sailors coming from the ocean to terrorize this village. This one I'm really looking forward to. I think between Fiesta de Chupacabras and this one, they're really going to bring in a town effect and really submerge you into the story. Last but not least is Descendants of Destruction. Now this takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where humans run into the subway and they live there and they mutate. And this house is supposed to play with light a lot, where you start out in a subway, and as you get deeper and deeper into the earth, you start seeing glowing mushrooms, and you start to see people start to mutate into these monsters. This one I'm excited for. I think out of all the houses, this is the one that I'm kind of on the fence about. I have higher hopes for the other house. I'm very curious to see how Universal's going to do this. But I'm also excited to see what type of mutations people are going to start to look like over time. We shall see. So those are all 10 houses for this year. So to go over, we have the Weekend House, the Blumhouse House, the Halloween House, Legends Collide, Spirits of the Coven, Bugs Eaten Alive, Fiesta de Chupacabra, Hell Block Prison, Descendants of Destruction, and lastly, Dead Man's Wharf. This year is going to be crazy. As you guys can see, this is going to be a crazy, versatile year. I am so excited for this event to finally kick off. Avery, what are you most excited for?
I'm most excited for everything, honestly. I'm just super excited for this year. It's going to be a great horror night, and we're going to have so much fun. And stay tuned for more Florida Man videos.
I could not have said that better myself. I am so excited for this year. I am looking forward to every single house, every single scare zone. I just want Friday to come already. It's Sunday. I just got to get through the week. So we will see you guys next Friday for the first day of Horror Nights 2022. Until then, we'll see you later. Bye. Fiesta de Chupacabra, and lastly, Hellbrock. We are here at a spanking Universal Studios. Our first house is Spirits of the Coven. Now this guy takes place in a 1920s speakeasy where the liches